everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will be creating a BMI calculator. So if you don't know what BMI calculator is, then let me tell you. So basically it determines if you're underweight or normal weight or overweight on the basis of your weight and height. But how do we calculate it? So there is a formula for it which I'll show you at the time of coding. And with the help of that formula, we will able to calculate your BMI. Simple, right? Let me give you a quick little preview. So this is how it looks. We will write weight here as maybe 60. Then height as 160 centimeter. Then click on calculate BMI button and see there is a result as 23.44. That is considered to be as normal weight. Perfect. Now if you're already following the playlist, you might be aware that we are done with the Android Kotlin beginner series. And now we will be creating project based on that. So if you have not watched the series yet, I would highly recommend you to go through it. Link in the description box. So this is the first project of Android Kotlin beginner series. I'll be creating 3 to 4 more beginner projects to make your concepts clear. And then after that, we'll be starting with the Kotlin intermediate series. Got it? With that said, let's create our project. Choose empty views activity. Then click next. Name it as BMI calculator. And then click on OK. First, let's do the prerequisite. Go to colors.xml. Press Ctrl+D to duplicate the line. Write the color name as navy and hex code as 323B60. And done. Now go to themes.xml. Uncomment this line and write the color as navy. Then duplicate the line and write item name as color primary variant. Then again duplicate the line and write item name as Android status bar color. And that's it. Then go to build.gradle app. Here write build features, view binding, true, and then click on sync now. Till now you should be aware what is view binding. If you are still not aware about it, let me quickly tell you. So view binding directly fetch element from the root. So you don't have to initialize them every time. In simple words, you don't need to write find view by ID. Got it? Now close all the tabs. Now our complete focus is on project logic. So I am not going deep in designing part. Hence I have created one background in Canva that I will copy paste it in the drawable folder. And done. See, this is how it looks. You can create this in XML format or Jetpack Compose. Okay. This is where we will add edit text and button. Now once the prerequisite is done, let's move to activity main.xml. Clear all the text view. First, let me tell you what exactly we are going to do. So our parent layout will be linear layout, and if you want you can use constraint layout. It's totally up to you. Then inside that linear layout we will create a card view just to give that elevated look. Then inside that card view we will have a horizontal linear layout, and then inside that horizontal linear layout we will have two vertical linear layout. In each of them we will have one text view and one edit text. Then outside the card view we will have a button and text view, and that's it. I know, sounds complicated, but that is what nesting of layout is. Now let me quickly write the entire code and then I'll give you an overview. Okay. and done. See, this is our parent linear layout with the background. Then we have a card view whose radius and elevation is 8 dp. Then as I said, we will have a horizontal linear layout, and inside that we will have two vertical linear layout. So in first vertical linear layout, we have text view, that is basically like a title as weight. And then we have edit text whose ID is weight edit. So this is where user will write the weight in kgs. Similarly, in second vertical linear layout, we have text view. Again, it's like a title as height. And then we have edit text whose ID is height edit. So this is where user will write the height in centimeters. Now, outside the card view, we have a button whose ID is calculate BTN. So when the user will click on it, then only the result will be generated. Then last we have again a text view whose ID is result text. As the ID says, this is where we will display the BMI result. Got it? Simple, right? You can customize the layout according to your requirement, but make sure you write the correct IDs. Now once we are done with the activity main, let's go to mainActivity.kt. So over here, I have divided the logic in 5 steps. Let me give you a quick overview. So in first step, we will set up binding. Then in second step, we will create calculate BMI method. Then in third step, we will write the BMI formula and category. Then in fourth step, we will set the output on result text view. And then finally in the fifth step, we will call calculate BMI method inside the set on click listener. And that's it. Now let's create it. So step number 1 is to set up binding. So write private, late init, where binding as activity main binding. Then initialize binding as activity main binding dot inflate layout inflator. And then finally in set content view, write binding dot root. So layout inflator is used to inflate the layout file that is associated with the binding class. In our case, our layout file is activity main, right? Then binding dot refers to the root view of the inflated layout, which basically includes every element in it. Got it? See, so simple, right? Now we don't even need to declare or initialize the element. All we have to do is to just write binding dot and it will display all the list of elements. Great. Now let's move to step number 2, that is to create calculate BMI method. So write private fun, that is function, calculate BMI. And inside that we will create two variables, weight and height. So let me quickly write it. And then, now as I said, I have created two variables, weight and height. So basically weight retrieves the text entered in the weight edit text. Then using toString method, it converts the text to a string, okay? And then we have used toFloat or null. So basically it converts the string to a float value. So if the conversion is successful, it returns the float value. Otherwise, it will return null. But why do we use toFloat or null method? So we use it to handle the cases where user might enter a non-numeric value or maybe an empty string. Then in that case, app usually gets crash. So to avoid that situation, we use toFloat or null method. Similarly, height returns the value from height edit text, then convert it to string and then float. Got it, right? Now, step number 3. This is where all the formula part comes. Let me write it and then I'll explain you. and done. Now see, very simple, that if weight is not equals to null, which means there is some value present in weight, and similarly if height is not equals to null, which means there is some value present in height, then in that case what we are supposed to do? If you see, I have used and, right, which means both of them has to be true. Then only we'll be able to calculate BMI. Otherwise, that is or else, it will be said as invalid. In simple words, if I have wrote weight but I have kept height as blank, then in that case it will show me an error as invalid input. Now, when both the condition is satisfied, then this is where we will do all the calculations part. So I have created two variables, BMI and BMI result. So this is BMI formula. It calculates the BMI by dividing weight by the square of the height. And why height is divided by 100? Because it converts the height from centimeter to meter. For the square, we have used POW, that is power as 2. Simple formula, right? Then BMI result formats the calculated BMI value as string with 2 decimal places. In simple words, with the help of percentage dot 2f, the output will be rounded to 2 decimal places. Like for example, 23.44. We have two values after decimal point, right? Because we have used percentage dot 2f. If we want 3 values after decimal point like 23.455, then we would have gone for percentage dot 3f. Got it? Then we have created another variable as BMI category. Here we have used when. It's like switch cases. So when the BMI value is less than 18.5, then it will be considered as underweight. Or if the BMI value is less than 25, then it will be considered as normal weight. Or if the BMI value is less than 30, then it will be considered as overweight. And then else, as if the BMI value is greater than 30, then it will be considered as obese. If you are not aware, then there is a BMI chart available on internet. You can check from that. Now step number 4, that is to set result on the elements. So on result text, it will show the output as BMI. Then using $sign, we will retrieve the BMI result. Then /n, that is basically to give a new line. Then on another line, we will have category. And using $sign, we have retrieved the BMI category. All of this thing just to make the result look more presentable. Then last step, that is step number 5, is to call the method inside the set on click listener. So inside the on create method, write binding dot calculate btn and set on click listener on it. It's like when we click on the calculate button, then what are we supposed to do? So if the user will click on the calculate button, then it will call the calculate BMI method which we created before, right? And that's it. We are done with the coding. Now let's run the app. This is how it looks. I'll write weight as 60 and height as 160. Then I'll click on calculate BMI button and see it shows the result. So BMI is 23.44 and category as normal weight. Let me try other values as well. And it works perfectly fine. I hope with this project your basic concepts are clear. We will be creating more such projects, so stay tuned for that. So for now, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will create a stopwatch. So I guess you already know how stopwatch works, right? We will have a timer with 3 buttons, that is start, stop and reset. Simple, right? Let me give you a quick little preview of it. So this is our second project from beginner project series. You can click on the I button to watch the playlist. Now let's create the project. Choose empty views activity. Then click on Next. Name it as Stopwatch. And click OK. First, let's do the prerequisites. So go to colors.xml. Press Ctrl+D to duplicate the line. Write the color name as navy blue. And hex code as 323B60. And done. Now go to themes.xml. Uncomment this line. How do we uncomment? Press Ctrl+Shift+/ simultaneously, okay? Then write the color as navy blue. Duplicate the line and write item name as color primary variant. Then again duplicate the line and write item name as Android status bar color. And that's it. Now go to build.gradle app. Over here, write build features. View binding as true. Then click on sync now. Now, just to make app look more presentable, I have created a background in Canva. Let me just copy paste it. And done. See, this is how it looks. I will add timer over here and 3 buttons over here. You can take inspiration from this background and create it in XML or Jetpack Compose, okay? Now let's close all the tabs. Then go to activity-main.xml. So as I previously said, we will have a timer that will be our text view. Then we will have 3 buttons and that's it. Let's create it. First, I will use linear layout. Make sure you add orientation as vertical, gravity as center vertical, and background as stopwatch background. Then create a text view. Keep the width and height as wrap content. Then ID as timer text. Then give text in time format like this is hours, this is minutes, and this is seconds. Got it? Then write all the other necessary attributes. Trust the process. Now we need 3 buttons, right? So we will write it in a pattern like 2 buttons beside each other and 1 button is below them, okay? So to do that, first we will create a relative layout. Keep the width as match parent and height as wrap content. Then create a button. Keep the width as 170 dp and height as wrap content. Then ID as start button. And then give all the necessary attributes. Then we will create another button which will be a stop button. So let me quickly create it. and done. Make sure to keep enabled as false. It will be initially disabled, okay? Then our last button, that will be a reset button. So keep the width as match parent and height as wrap content. Then give ID as a reset button and add all the necessary attributes. And done. Again, make sure to keep enabled as false. See, it looks perfect. Also, I have used linear layout, so all the elements in your emulator might look different because obviously the screen size will differ. Hence, I will always recommend to go for constraint layout. So designing is totally up to you, experiment with it. My focus is on logic part only, okay? So with that said, let's go to main-activity.kt. Now over here, we are going to learn something new like handler and runnable. So I have divided it in 6 steps. Let me quickly give you an overview. So in the first step, we will set up binding. Then in second step, we will deal with handler and runnable. Then in third step, we will create start timer method. And then in fourth step, we will create stop timer method. And then in fifth step, we will create reset timer method. And then lastly, in the sixth step, we will call all the 3 methods in their respective button set on click listener. Got it? So now let's create it. Step number 1, that is to set up binding. So write private late init where binding as activity main binding. Then initialize binding activity main binding dot inflate as layout inflator, and write set content view as binding dot root. So if you are still not aware what is view binding and all, so let me quickly tell you in short that it directly accesses the elements from the respective layout file, that is our activity main.xml. So we don't need to declare or initialize element every time. All you have to do is write binding dot and all the list of elements will be present. Clear, right? Next, step number 2 and the very important step, that is to deal with handler and runnable. First, let me write the code and then I'll explain you. And done. Remember, all of this code is above the onCreate method, okay? Now first we have declared a variable that is running, and its variable type is boolean, means either true or false. So initially we have kept it as false. Simple. Is running variable is used to track the timer is currently running or not, okay? Next we have declared another variable that is timer seconds, and its variable type is of course int, that is integer. So we have initialized it with 0. Timer seconds variable represents the number of seconds elapsed, means gone in the timer. Now this line declares a handler whose variable type is handler and initialize it with a handler that operates on the main looper. In simple words, handlers are used to schedule and run the code on a specific thread. Now what is thread? Not that Insta threads. So in technical terms, thread is a background process that can run independently on the main UI. Got it? Then we have declared a runnable variable whose variable type is runnable and initialize it with an anonymous object implementing the runnable interface. Now what is interface? It's like a contract that defines a set of methods and properties that a class must implement. Got it? Then run function will start when runnable is executed. Then inside the run function, timer seconds variable is incremented by 1. So initially it was 0, right? Then we incremented it by using ++. It's like once the run function is hit, then automatically timer seconds will start. And then actual hours, minutes and seconds will start working. And all of them are calculated as per their formula. Nothing complicated, right? Then time variable is a formatted string that represents elapsed time, means the time that is gone, in the format as HHMMSS, that is hours, minute and seconds. See, we have used %0 2D, means it will format the string and it will show only 2 integer value. That's why %0 2D. If it would have been like %0 3D, then in that case it will show 3 integer value. Getting my point? Also, D represents integer while F represents float. If you remember, we have already used %2F in our previous video. Similarly, %2D works, okay? Then of course, once we have the formatted string, that is a time, then we will set it on the text view. Simple, right? Finally, handler.postDelayed is used to schedule the runnable to run again after a delay of 1 second. Basically, to work continuously after each second until runnable is stopped. It's all very new concept, so it will take time to understand. So don't worry, read more about handler and runnable. I'll put the resources in the description box. Now coming to step number 3, that is to create start timer method. Let me quickly write it and then I'll explain you. And then, now focus. First, I have wrote if is running not. What does that mean? See, is running is a boolean variable, means either true or false. So initially we have kept it as false, right? And not sign represents the opposite of it, means true. So in simple language, it says if is running is true, then in that case we are supposed to do the following actions. Like start the timer with a post delay of 1000 milliseconds, means after every 1 second it will increment. Then the timer is running, so we have kept is running value will be as true, means timer is working now. Then to avoid app crashes and stuff, we have to make sure to keep button disabled that user are not supposed to use. Like once the user had clicked on start timer button, then again he will click on it, which might lead to crash. So to avoid such situations, we will keep start button is enabled as false, means it will be disabled for a while. Also, if you remember, we have kept stop and reset button disabled in XML file, right? But after the start button is clicked, then we can keep it enabled as true for both of them, okay? Then step number 4, that is to create stop timer method. So let me quickly write it. And done. Now see, over here we wrote if is running. If you see, initially it was false. Then when start timer was clicked, then is running became true. So now over here is running is considered to be as true. Of course, stop button will only work when the timer is running, right? Then to stop the timer, or in technical words to stop the runnable, we will use remove callback method. Then timer is stopped now, so is running value will become as false. Simple, right? Again, we have disabled one button, that is stop button, because user has already clicked on that. So to avoid multiple clicks on the same button, simply disable it. But start reset button is active. Also, if you will notice, when the user will click on stop button, then the start button will change its text to resume. Now coming to our step number 5, that is to create reset timer method. Let me write it. And done. Now see, when the user will click on the reset button, first thing it will do is to stop the timer. And then everything will go back to 0. Like timer, seconds will again 0. The text, that will be also 0. Then disable the reset button, and if you see, we have used stop timer. So stop button will also be disabled. But start button will be enabled, and also it will come back to its original text as start. It's like everything will be back to its OG place once reset button is clicked. Then finally, the last step, that is step number 6, that is to call all 3 methods in their respective buttons. So come inside the onCreate method, write binding.start button dot set onClick listener, and inside that call start timer method. Similarly, set onClick listener on stop button, and inside that call stop timer method. Again, set onClick listener on reset button, and inside that call reset timer method. And that's it. We are done with the coding. Now let's run the app. This is how it looks. Perfect. See, initially only start button is enabled. So let me click on it. And see, timer has started. Also, now start button is disabled and stop and reset button is enabled. So I'll click on stop button. And see, the timer has stopped. Also, now the start button has changed its text to resume button. Now I'll click on reset button and see timer is back to 0. Great, it works perfectly fine. If you still have any doubts regarding the project, please feel free to comment down below. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will create a simple quiz app. Let me give you a quick preview. See, this is how it looks. As I said, it's a simple quiz app, so nothing fancy features. So I'll answer it as maybe first one and see it shows as incorrect. Also, if you have noticed, the button changed its color to red because it was incorrect, and correct answer button changed its color to green. Then automatically we are on the next question. And now see, this is our last question. So I'll click maybe this one and it's incorrect. Also see, there is a score toast. So I scored 1 out of 3. Now I'll click on restart quiz and we are back to our question number 1. Perfect. So before creating the project, I want to say that the code might look little lengthy, but the logic is super duper simple, okay? So yeah, with that said, let's create it. Choose empty views activity and click on next. Then name it as quiz app and then click on finish. First, let's do the prerequisite. So go to colors.xml. Press Ctrl+D to duplicate the line. Name the color as navy blue and hex code as 323B60. Again, duplicate the line and write the color name as pink and hex code as E05D5D. And done. Now go to themes.xml, uncomment this line and write color as navy blue. Duplicate the line and write item name as color primary variant. Then again duplicate the line and write item name as Android status bar color. And done. Next, go to build.gradle app. Write build features. Then inside it write view binding as true. Then click on sync now. And done. Now close all the tabs. As always, I say my focus is on logic part, not on designing part. So I have created a background just to make the app look more presentable. So let me copy paste it quickly. And done. This is how it looks. So this is where the question and options will come, okay? Also, do not add background directly this way. Instead, create it using XML or Jetpack Compose. And with that said, we are done with the prerequisite. Now let's go to activity main.xml. So over here, we will be creating one text view that will display our question and 4 buttons, out of which 3 buttons will be as our 3 options and remaining one will be as a restart quiz button. Got it? Now let's create it. Let me quickly write the code and then I'll explain you only the important parts, okay? And done. Now see, designing is totally up to you, so experiment with it. You can choose any layout of your choice, but for now, our parent layout is linear layout. I have given the background over here. Then again, I have created another layout in which question and 3 options will be there. And restart button will be outside the linear layout. Got it? This is a text view that will display the question, and its ID is question text. Then I have created 3 buttons: option 1 button, option 2 button, and option 3 button. Then outside the linear layout, I have created a restart button, which initially I have kept enabled as false. And that's it. Now see, as I have used linear layouts, elements will not be similarly arranged in your device or emulator. So make sure that you adjust the margin top or simply use constraint layout. Okay? I'll scroll the code slowly so you can pause and write the code. Now let's go to main activity.kt. So to simplify it, I have divided it in 12 steps. I know 12 steps sounds a lot, but it's super duper easy. Let's see all the steps. Step number 1 is to set up the binding. Step number 2 is to create questions, options, and answer array. Step number 3, create question index and score value. Now, we have 7 methods to create further. So step number 4 is create correct button color method. Step number 5 is to create wrong button color method. Step number 6 is to create reset button colors method. Step number 7 is to create show result method. Step number 8 is to create display question method. Step number 9 is to create check answer method. And step number 10, last method, that is to create restart quiz method. Then step number 11 is to call display question method. And finally, our last step, that is step number 12, is to call method inside set on click listener. And that's it. So let's do it step by step. Step number 1 is to set up binding. So write private, let init where binding as activity main binding. Then initialize binding as activity main binding dot inflate, and inside it write layout inflator. Then inside the set content view write binding dot root, and that's it. Now with the help of binding, you can access any elements without declaring or initializing it. Great, right? Next, step number 2. Here we have to create question array, option array, and answer array. This is where all the question, options, and answer will be stored. Okay? So first, let's create question array. I'll write private, well, questions, then create an array of, inside the bracket, mention all the question. So let me quickly do that. And done. See, I have added 3 questions over here. Now similarly, let's create option array. But over here, there will be one array of which will store 3 different arrays. And what do we call that? A 2D array. So let me quickly write the code. And done. See, as I said, this array is a 2D array. Each array of consists of 3 options. So this option are of question number 1. These 3 options are of question number 2. These 3 options are of question number 3. Got it? Hence, all of them are segregated into different arrays. Then question is created, option is created. So obviously we have to create an answer array as well. So write private, Well, correct answers. Then create an array of. Now, we can't directly write answer in it. Instead, we have to write the index value of correct answer in the options. See, array index value starts from 0. Let's understand it. Over here, this is an array, right? For MySQL, the index value is 0. Then for SQLite, the index value is 1. And then for Firebase, the index value is 2. Similarly for other array as well. Always remember that array index value starts from 0, not from 1. Okay? Now inside the array of out of this 3 options, the correct answer is SQLite. So the index value for it is 1. Then in this 3 option, correct answer is application programming interface. And its index value is 0. So I'll write over here 0. Lastly, out of these 3 correct answer is 2008. So its index value is 2. So I will write over here as 2. And that's it, done. Simple, right? Moving on to step number 3, that is to declare 2 variables. First is private var current question index. That will be initially as 0. Then second variable is private var score, and it will be also initially as 0. Now, what are those? So the variable name itself says that current question index means it will be stored on which question number you are currently present on. Like for example, we are on first question, so the index value will be as 0. Then we are on second question, so the index value will be as 1. Then we are on third question, then the index value will be as 2. Got it? Why is it required? Because obviously based on the index value of current question, it will display the next question as well. Plus also the score based on the last question. Got it? Then score will keep a record of all the correct answers we submitted. Okay? And according to that, it will show the result. See, simple, right? Now, moving on to step number 4, this is where we will create different methods. So our first method is correct button colors method. Let me write private fun correct button colors. And we will pass one parameter as button index. See, we have 3 options button, right? So to understand that which option button user has clicked on, we will require the index number of it. Like for example, if the user has clicked on second option, that will be our index value as 1. Remember, index value starts from 0. Got it? Now, as we are creating correct button color method, so if the user click on the correct option, in that case, button color will turn into green. Simple, right? But now we don't know which option button will user click, right? So for that, I'll use when. It's like a switch case, okay? When button index. As we have 3 options, so obviously we will have 3 index value like 0, 1 and 2. Got it? So I'll write 0, arrow operator. I want to access option 1 button. So I'll write binding dot option 1 button. Okay. Then dot set background color as color dot green. Now similarly, I will do it for option 2 button and option 3 button as well. And done. Then step number 5, that is to create wrong button color method. Previously, if the user will click on the correct option, then the button will turn green, right? Now, if the user will click on incorrect option, the button will turn red. Got it? So let me quickly write it. and done. See, we have not put the actual logic here, which we will do it in step number 9. So before that, let's go to step number 6, that is to create reset button colors method. So write private fun reset button colors. See, reset button color means the button that will turn green or red after user submitted the answer. Those buttons should be turned back to its original color for the next question. Got it? So there is no user involvement in it, hence we won't require any index value. Because ultimately we have to reset the color of all the options button, right? So let me quickly write the code. And done. If you have noticed here that I have used RGB. See, in set background color, there are limited choice of colors. You cannot directly access colors.xml file, okay? Hence, I have divided the navy color in RGB format. Now let's go to our step number 7, that is to create show result method. So we will display the score in a toast format. If you want to make it a little more advanced, then instead of a toast, you can create a dialog box, okay? But for now, let's stick to the toast. Let me write it. See, your score. This is where the score will be shown. Out of question dot size means how many questions are present in it. For us, we have only 3 questions, right? So the size will be 3. Okay? It's like your score may be 2 out of 3. Got it? Then, if you remember, we have initially disabled the restart button. But now score is out, which means the end of the quiz. So now binding.restart button is enabled as true. Simple, right? Now, step number 8, that is to create display question method. First, let me write the code and then I'll explain you. And done. See, question variable contains an array list of all the questions, right? And current question index is the index of current question being displayed. Got it? So using dot text, we are displaying it on the question text view. Similarly, we have an options array which stores all the options in it. So each option button will display their own option according to their index value, and of course based on question as well. Like for example, current question index is 1, which means second question, right? So all the 3 options will be from the same question because all of them have same current question index. Got it? The next thing is the 0, 1 and 2. These are the index value of options. Remember, we have options array, and in the first array, we have 3 options in it. So each option has their own index value, correct? So first option goes on option 1 button, then second option goes on option 2 button, and so on. Lastly, I have called reset button color methods because when the question will be displayed, it should be displayed in their original button color. Simple, right? Then step number 9 and very important step, that is to check if the answer is correct or not. Let me write the code and then I'll explain you. And done. See, we have passed a parameter as selected answer index. Means it will store the index value of answer selected by the user. Then I have created a correct answer index that stores the correct answer array of current question index. Like for example, current question index is 1. So it will select the correct answer index value also as 1. I bet you will get confused over here. So see, question index value is 1, and as I said, correct answer index value will also be 1, which is this one. Why is it 0 then? See, 102 is index value of correct answer in options array, not the index value of correct answer array. Got it? Come back here. So if selected answer index is equal to correct answer index, which means the answer is right, hence score will be incremented by 1, that is plus plus. And what happens to the correct answer button color? Well, it changes to green. But else, what if selected answer index is not equal to correct answer index, which means the answer is incorrect? Then in that case, button color changes to red. And also it shows the correct answer in green button color. There is no score plus plus, okay? This is where correct button colors and wrong button color method is called in a proper logic. Then once the user has selected his answer and maybe it's correct or maybe it's wrong, but what's next? It will instantly jump to another question. And to do that, we have used a very simple logic that says if current question index is less than question dot size minus 1, which means, see, question dot size is 3 and minus 1 makes it 2. Why did we wrote minus 1? Because we are dealing with index value. So see, if current question index is 0, that is less than 2, it will display next question by increasing current question index and also with 1000 milliseconds post delay. Then consider current question index is 1, that is also less than 2. It will also display next question. Then current question index is 2. Again it will display next question. But now if the current question index is 3, in that case 3 is greater than 2, right? That means it's the end of the question. And now it's time to show result. See, so simple logic, right? Try debugging the logic on paper. You will understand it better. Now, let's move on to step number 10 and our last method, that is to create restart quiz method. Let me write the code. and done. We will set this method on restart button. So if the user will click on restart quiz button, then in that case, current question index will become 0, which means back to first question. Score will also become 0, and then display question method will be called. And lastly, again we will disable the restart button, but it will be enabled when the user will reach on the last question. Now, step number 11. Inside the onCreate method, we will call display question method. Because obviously once the user will enter the app, the first thing he will see is question. Then last step, step number 12, that is to set onClick listener, and inside that call the methods. So I'll write binding dot option 1 button dot set onClick listener, and inside that I'll call check answer method, and it's option 1, so obviously the index value will be as 0. Similarly, let me create for option 2 and option 3. And done. See, it's option 2, so the index value for check answer will be 1. And for option 3, the index value for check answer will be 2. Then lastly, I'll set onClick listener on restart button. And inside that, I'll call restart quiz method. And that's it. Also, I realized that we had made a mistake over here. It should not be selected answer index. Instead, it should highlight the correct answer index, right? And done. So, we are done with the coding. Now let's run the app. See, this is how it looks. We have question with its associate options. I'll click MySQL and see it shows the red color and SQLite as green color. Perfect. Also, quickly we jump to the next question as well. Now I'll choose the correct one and see it only shows the green color. Also in the background a score is incremented. Then our last question, I'll choose this one and see it shows the result in a toast format as 2 out of 3. Perfect. Now we are at the end of the quiz. So I'll click on restart quiz button and see we are back to the first question. Great. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.